Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, we're going to be looking at a new Meowstic card that actually does have a couple of very interesting attacks. Now, starting off, of course, Meowstic is a Pokemon with 90 HP, which is just so low. But being a psychic Pokemon does mean that in the expanded format you get access to Dimension Valley, which will reduce by 1 the attack cost, by 1 colourless, the attack cost of all psychic Pokemon's attacks. And of course, you are hitting weakness against Buzzwole, which at the moment is incredibly relevant because Buzzwole, along with really Zoroark, it's kind of the only relevant Pokemon. Those two Pokemon alone really are absolutely dominating the format right now. So having a Pokemon that can KO a Buzzwole, which Meowstic can, pretty gosh darn important. Of course, being a psychic Pokemon, it is also weak to psychic, so if anyone's playing something like Espeon or Garbodor, that's going to be bad news. But because Buzzwole's running around, a whole bunch of people are playing Mew and Mewtwo to try and counter Buzzwole, and they will of course be countering you as well. But you have got a retreat cost of only 1, so that's quite nice. The first attack here for 1 psychic energy does 20 damage, and you switch Meowstic with one of your benched Pokemon. You switch to the bench while doing 20 damage. It is another one of what I like to call these hit and run Pokemon. Now, the last one of these we got, at least that jumped to mind for me, was Alolan Sandslash. Now, Alolan Sandslash is a stage 1 like Meowstic, but it did 50 damage and switched to the bench for a water and a double colourless, whereas Meowstic does it for just a single psychic energy. Now, it only does 20, not 50, but the fact that you can do it for just a single energy makes it much better as a hit and run Pokemon. Although I do need to mention at this stage that it's not as good as a Donphan from Plasma Storm. It's not even close to being as good as a Donphan from Plasma Storm, so let's not get too excited. Of course, Donphan did 50 for a single energy, but it could also use stuff like strong energy to do more damage, and let's not forget that when Donphan was roaming the earth, we had Robosub, which you could chuck up when you went to the bench. And speaking of which, these hit and run Pokemon, you need wall Pokemon. So the theory here is that you do a bunch of damage, you switch to the bench, but then you put up a wall that is either not going to get KO'd or you don't mind if it gets KO'd instead. And we do have some walls we can use at the moment. Now, the best one of these is probably Wobbuffet. Wobbuffet goes in the active, and when it's in the active, non-psychic Pokemon don't have abilities. Now, crucially, that means that Tapu Lele will keep the abilities, but other than that, pretty much everything loses abilities. And the theory here is that you retreat your Wobbuffet at the beginning of the turn, then you attack with Meowstic, putting the Wobbuffet up at the end of your turn, so that you have abilities during your turn, but your opponent doesn't because you're ending every turn with a Wobbuffet in the active. Now, honestly, 20 damage is a little bit low for a hit and run attack like this. The single energy is brilliant. This is a good attack for turn 2 onwards, but honestly here, 20 damage is a little bit low. Now, we do have a couple of other wall Pokemon that we can use. We've got Reshiram and Zekrom from Shining Legends, both of which have the Outrage attack for a double colourless energy, which is quite nice because it's 1 energy attachment. 20 damage plus 10 more for each damage counter on the Pokemon. So if your opponent is unable to do 130 and get a 1-hit KO, then you can do 20 damage more than they did to you, back to them, and of course you've got both Zekrom and Reshiram, which means you've got a choice of 2 different weaknesses you can be hitting here, which is kind of useful. Although we don't have Robosub, and Robosub was so good for decks like this. I suppose we do in Expanded. The other thing, of course, to mention here is that although the 20 damage is low, and it is, time you start hitting for weakness on an EX or a GX, this builds up quickly. So let's say you're against something like a Buzzwole, Psychic Weak GX Pokemon. Well, you had a choice band, you're doing 50 damage, times 2 for the weakness is 100 damage. You're getting a 2-hit KO on a Buzzwole while going back to the bench to protect yourself in the meantime. Problem is, unless you're against something like a Buzzwole or an Espeon, you're really not doing enough damage here. I do need to mention that this is a better hit and run Pokemon than Alolan Sandslash, because not needing free energy is such an advantage. But then again, Alolan Sandslash had the brilliant ability that allowed you to just draw a card every turn. So, as an overall Pokemon, there is an argument that Alolan Sandslash is better, and that sees no play at the moment. Bear it in mind, as a single energy hit and run Pokemon, hitting for a good weakness, but it's not amazing. The second attack, however, here I think is even better. It's for a Psychic and a colourless energy, and you do 30 damage, plus 30 for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. And this adds up pretty gosh darned quickly. Now, one thing I do need to mention here is that although it's a 2 energy attack, it really can be a 1 energy attack quite easily. In the expanded format, you've got Dimension Valley, which brings it down to just 1 Psychic energy, or a Rainbow energy if you were wanting to use it in a deck that wasn't necessarily a Psychic focused deck. And if you're in the standard format, or in expanded as well, I suppose, you can use counter energy, which makes this a single energy attack as long as you're behind on prizes. Counter energy counting as any 2 energy when attached to a non-EX, non-GX Pokemon, and you're behind on prizes. And the numbers here add up pretty quickly. So if you're against something like a Buzzwole or an Espeon, a Psychic weak EX or GX, then 2 energy plus a choice band and you're getting a KO. You're doing 30 base. If they've got 2 energy on, you're going up to 90. Add on a choice band to do 120. Double it for weakness and you're doing 240 damage. And this is pretty good because we need Buzzwole counters at the moment. At the moment, we really are in a format where it's Buzzwole or it's Zoroark. There's a few kooky rogue decks coming around here and there, but really they are the only 2 great Pokemon at the moment. So having a Pokemon that can counter either of those is a great thing. Now, at the moment, a lot of people are using the aforementioned Mewtwo from Evolutions. The thing is, Mewtwo from Evolutions will get a 1-hit KO with a choice band on a free energy Buzzwole. Buzzwole with free energy means you're doing 80 damage. Plus then you add in the choice band to do 110, double to 220, get the KO with weakness. Well, that actually gives Meowstic an advantage here, because you're getting a KO on a 2 energy Buzzwole, whereas Mewtwo can only get a KO on a 3 energy Buzzwole. That makes a big difference, because at the moment Buzzwole players can just put 2 energy on a Buzzwole and go, look, they're not getting a 1-hit KO, so I'm going to leave 2 energy on here and I'll attach the 3rd when I'm ready to go and get a KO. Not something you can do against Meowstic. Now, arguably, it's not as good as Mew-EX. Mew-EX is often used in Zoroark decks, so Mew can just use the attacks of any Pokemon on the field. So what you would do here is just put a double colourless energy onto Mew and copy something like a Riotous Beating, and then get an easy KO on a Buzzwole and a 1-hit KO regardless of how much energy is on there. The thing is, Mew-EX is a 2-prize Pokemon with just 120 HP. That is not particularly great. So it can more easily get 1-hit KOs than Mewtwo, and it only gives up a single prize, unlike Mew. But what we're going to keep coming back to with this Pokemon is that it's a stage 1. I love both these attacks. I love what they do, and I love the cost. And with both of them, I just keep coming back to saying, you know what? Yeah. We're still sitting here and we're saying, you've got to evolve it up. And that is just a little bit awkward. I'm giving Meowstic between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. Love both the attacks. Love the weakness that you're hitting here. And I do think there is a bit of potential here. But you still got to take that turn to evolve it. Even though it gets a KO on a 2-energy Buzzwole, which Mewtwo doesn't, Mewtwo's a basic and can be dropped as a complete surprise. Even though it doesn't give up 2 prizes like Mew-EX, Mew-EX can just be gotten and rolling in a single turn without having to wait to evolve. And I think at the end of the day, that probably is a deciding factor, which means Meowstic, it still sits there as a fun Pokemon to bear in mind, could be useful, but it stops it from being a yes. kind of card. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. Tell me what you think about Meowstic. Is it going to be a good Buzzwole counter, or is the turn of evolution just too much to ask for? Go nuts! But be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, or Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio, though feel free to go follow at both. And of course, if you do want to support the channel and get some bonus podcasts, a new bonus podcast went up just yesterday, then head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio where you can do just that. But as always, by far the most important thing is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross and you've been watching PTCG Radio.